Testing 1, 2, 3.
If you think creating a world without poverty is impossible, let's do it. If you think zero unemployment is impossible, let's do it. If you think zero net carbon emission is impossible, let's do it. Because all impossibles will be possible.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great honor and pleasure to introduce Professor Muhammad Yunus from Bangladesh. Just you saw the video. Professor Yunus is very famous, and his activity, maybe all of you know his activities. Professor Yunus has visited Fukuoka City so often because he is a laureate of Grand Prize of Fukuoka, Grand Prize of Fukuoka Fukuoka Asian Culture Prize, Fukuoka Bunka Asia Bunka Show in 2001, before he received the Nobel Prize in 2006. After 2007, he often visited Kyushu University and gave us a big, encouraged, and important idea on social business and how to create a new society in this century. He is just a distinguished university professor of Kyushu University called Eiyo Hakase in Japanese. Professor Yunus always emphasizes the importance of usage of technology, especially information and communication technologies, for solving the social problems. I'm a little bit surprised the title of this today's his talk. The title is "The Age of Artificial Intelligence: Who Wins to Become the Ruler of the Planet?" I don't know, Professor Yunus just learned about artificial intelligence, but I think it will be a very, very interesting talk. So please, Professor Yunus.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Well, thank you very much, Professor Yasura, for your introduction. We go a long way. I was explaining to him. He was the one who invited me to Kyushu University first time. I had no idea where Kyushu University was, but he was very keen to have us be present in Kyushu University. And that was the beginning of the creation of the center and social business, etc., all our link with Kyushu University. And we are very grateful to you, Professor Yasura. The title kind of make everybody puzzled what's going on here, and you mentioned that too. So it's only a small part of my presentation. Since everybody is eager to hear about that, let me start with that and get it over so that we can concentrate on other issues. I've been explaining people wherever I get to see about 3 of my major worries that I get. I feel that we are coming to an end. The world is coming to an end. This sounds horrible, but that's the only way you can express what you see. I may be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but that's what kind of a picture that presents itself. One is obviously the environment. Environment doesn't give us an escape route. And all of us talking about how close the time is when the planet will be unlivable by human beings. And we're not talking in terms of 100 years or 150 years or something like that. We're talking about in terms of decades. We are told many times that in 20 years, by 2040, the global warming will reach 1.5 degrees Celsius. And that's the maximum that you can have for a comfortable life. Even that is not very welcome limit. If we somehow miss that 2040 limit of 1.5 degrees Celsius, the next one that we hit, we must address ourselves, correct ourselves, would be 2050, another 10 years, when global warming will be at the level of 2 degrees Celsius. And beyond 2 degrees Celsius is totally unlivable condition. If anybody survives, with extreme difficulty, people will survive. And that's the message just came out recently again, in a big way. We have been hearing this for many, many years, but this is becoming more and more acute. The recent one is 11,000 scientists signed up 2 weeks back, I think. 11,000 global scientists signed up, warning the leaders that we don't have much time left. If you don't act, it's extremely difficult for human beings to survive, and very soon. And that's where Greta Thunberg comes in. The young girl demonstrating with a placard saying that global warming is going beyond our control, and we must do something about it. She's sitting in front of the Swedish parliament and trying to draw attention of the policymakers of the government of Sweden. But nobody knew that this little girl would attract so much attention from her friends around the world, 15, 16-year-old teenagers. Soon it became a movement, Fridays for Future, and millions of young people demonstrating and coming out of the classroom every Friday demonstrating that something must be done to save us. And she was at the United Nations, Thunberg, and challenging everybody, saying that how dare you take away my life? Who gave you the right to do that? Because I have no life left in front of me. When some people advise her to go back to school rather than do this, he said, what is school? Why should I go to school? I have no future. And people have no answer for that. So what she brought out is the urgency of the situation, that is so urgent, something needed to be done. But somehow, we are not doing much about it. We are going out everyday life as if nothing happened. She's the one telling the house is on fire. But inside the house, you are spending time as if it's a daily life, everyday life. It's not. So unless you stop the fire, there is no house left. So that's urgency. Since there is no such urgency felt throughout the world, so we are inching every day and coming to the end of it. So the world is in a disaster path on environmental front. This is very clear, and the world is still not prepared to act. Still fossil fuel industry flourish, expand. Still plastic industry flourish and make our rivers, our oceans filled with plastics and making life impossible for fish, for the birds, for animals, and human beings. Microfibers are creeping into our food chain, human food chain, and still we are not aware of it. Still we are not taking any action. Even powerful country like the United States withdraw from the Paris Agreement. Paris Agreement came after 40 years of hard struggle. It's not easy. It was a small voice about the environment. Nobody listened. Few lunatics, quote unquote, talking about environment. Nobody listened. Finally, people make political gathering, form party, Green Party. In many countries, Green Party. Got a few seats in the parliament. And soon they came into the government. It's a long story. After all this, finally, Paris Agreement was signed. But Trump comes. He says climate change, global warming is a Chinese hoax. There's nothing to worry about it. So he just withdraws, doing so much damage to all the things that has been done before. So what I'm saying is, these are all familiar stories to you. What I'm saying, that we are not worrying about it. Not worrying will make it very costly for us. The young generation like Greta Thunberg, they will not have their full life, because by the middle of their life, this planet will become unlivable. And what happens to the grandchildren? The grandchildren will not have a life to live at all. So I try to ask question to everybody. Do you imagine what kind of world your grandchildren will inherit? Or do you see in your imagination what kind of world your grandchildren should have when they grow into adulthood? I'm sure you'll have a very beautiful picture of that world where your grandchildren will get into lots of the difficulties that we face, will be removed, and they will have a much better life than we do. That's what the wishes of the grandparents who are sitting here today, then maybe parents, may not be parents yet, but when they become grandparents, this is what they will dream. I said, once you define imagine what the world will be like when your grandchildren will grow up. Ask yourself, are you going to do something to make it happen? If you're not going to do something to make it happen, it will never happen. It will get far worse than what you have now. Why bring your grandchildren in this world to suffer? So that question you have to resolve now. So this is a question that I keep raising in the context of what I'm saying, that if you follow the same old system, that one that we follow every day, you'll end up with the same destination, same result. Old roads will take you to old destinations. And the destination, what we have now, is a disaster. We are waiting at the cliff. We are rushing to the cliff to go down, and the end of it. So that realization has to be felt very strongly. That's the point I wanted to push, that yes, we have to realize that the end is coming. Only survival is, you have to build a new destination instead of this disaster path leading to the end of cliff. A new destination we can create, and in order to reach that new destination, we have to build new roads. Old road will never take you to new destination. So today we're all following the old roads and make sure we get to the disaster. Not much is being done to build the new roads to get to the new destination. That's where I talk about the social business and everything that is elements of new roads that we have to build to go to the new destination. So this is one worry that I wanted to discuss about among the three worries. The another worry is wealth concentration. All the wealth of the world is getting more and more concentrated in fewer and fewer hands. This is the tendency globally. It's not just one country or one place. Globally, it is concentrated. Someone described it by saying 1% of the population of the entire world owns 99% of the wealth of the world. 1% population owning 99% of the wealth of the world. So what happens to the 99% of the population? They have to live with 1% of the wealth. So that kind of situation is not sustainable. Socially, it is not sustainable. It will explode. Social anger, social hatred will destroy the whole world. You don't need anything else. And I try to describe it by saying it's a ticking time bomb. You are not seeing it now, but it's ticking. Time will come, it will explode. And time is not waiting for us for long. It will come soon. You see the signs of it occasionally. Some signs like a yellow vest movement, just a small thing, but suddenly it flares up all over France. It's a rich country, but people say we have nothing. We cannot pay for the oil or the gas that we have to buy for our car. We cannot afford all the things that we are raising taxes on that. And they are on the street. Still, it's not on the news, but the yellow vest movement continues in France. And Macron is the one who is trying to bring new life for all the people in France. But in his term, he faces this problem. Revolution from the bottom, discussing that we don't have anything, while France is moving forward with the growth and everything else. Similar thing is in Chile. Now Chile is in a big crisis. They have to now create a new constitution for survival because people just revolted. Why? The subway fare has been raised a little bit and exploded. The whole population exploded for that. Such a sensitive thing. You see Lebanon, you see many other countries happening similar thing. Brexit is one example. The whole Brexit thing came because poor in UK complaining that we don't have jobs, we don't get a good salary because poor from Europe, particularly Eastern Europe, they come and take away our job. That's a basic essence of the entire Brexit campaign. How to protect the poor people in UK? Politicians came with their smart idea. To protect the poor in UK, we must stop the poor people coming from Europe. How to do that? Get out of the European Union so that they cannot enter anymore. Today, because of the Union, they can come and go whenever they like, and taking our job, our life is not as good as it should be. So the Brexit movement came. Still, the Brexit thing has not been resolved. General election is coming, 12th December, and so on. So these are the things. And another extreme of this, and you are very familiar with that, the leader, global, powerful leader, he says, I'll build a wall. Physically, he wants to build a wall. Why? Poor people cannot enter his country. And he keeps on repeating this, that he has to build a wall. He used to say Mexicans should pay for it. Now he doesn't say that, but he will also build a wall. Not only build the wall, he will have trenches along the wall, so the sharks and other things can swim around. If anybody crosses it, they can eat them. What a horrible way to describe poor people getting to their country. I said, if you continue with this logic, how far do you go? And the same logic, Trump administration wants to get out of all kinds of trade agreement. Because for him, trade means job going from America to someplace else. He wants to retain the job inside the country. So he wants to either discard the agreements, international trade agreements, or redesign it completely according to his wishes. Again, to protect the poor. Because then he becomes a popular leader. If you say you're protecting the poor, he becomes a political leader. No matter how impractical this whole thing is, he still has his own base. He continues in that one. So this is the one that happens when you concentrate the wealth in one direction. How far can it go? It's a continuous process. It's not something a day kind of respite, it goes easy. It doesn't go easy. It gets more and more concentrated. So unless we have found a way to design a system where wealth doesn't go up the way it has been doing today, it comes down to be shared by everybody. I said, economics is nothing but somebody's game plan, how the economy should be running. Somebody designed a system and it became a theory, and we became a product of the theory. We prepared ourselves to fit into the theory, believe in everything the theory says. We make the plan, and we became the victims of the plan. We become a believer in it and continue to behave as the theory says we should behave. As a result, we create this problem. So we continue to do that. In order to get out of it, we have to design another game, which does this reverse process. Wealth doesn't go up, wealth comes down. It's all about a creative way of designing a system, that's all. It's a system thing. So all the problem that we're creating, environment is a system thing. It's created because everybody has to make money. They don't have any option to look at anything else. So in the process, they create terrible problem that we face right now, environmental process. Problem is not created by God or any superpower of that. We, in everyday way, in our businesses that we create, that creates the problem of environment. So same way, condition of the wealth is outcome of the system that we built. So in order to redesign it, in order to revise it, we have to redesign the system. Once you redesign, everything comes out easy. I said 1% of the wealth, 1% of the population having 99% of the wealth. Naturally, one question will emerge. Where do these 1% people live? After all, they live someplace. They are not evenly distributed in the whole world. They're concentrated in a few countries. Maybe 6 countries, maybe 7 countries. That's where the 1% who own the 99% live. This is their home. So if you set them aside, those 6, 7, whatever number of countries, rest of the world has to live with 1% of the wealth. Only half a dozen countries owning 99% of the wealth, and the remaining world to live with 1%. That is a non-starter completely. That's where tension comes. That's where people start seeing this is a very unfair way of doing things. Then you have the population movement. When you say, well, all the North African, all the Asians rushing to Europe as refugees, as immigrants, I said, it's very natural. Because people look for a good life. At their home, they have no good life. So they go, under any circumstances, they have to go to the place where the good life has a promise. That once I can cross the boundary, I'm in a good place. I have a good life for myself, my children, my grandchildren. Everybody will be safe. Then you blame the people. Why are you sending people? Nobody is sending people. People are looking for opportunities for them. As a result, this population movement takes place. Nobody can stop that population movement by building walls, by building anything, or firing at them. Nothing. Because people have to survive. Many people die on the way just to get there. But the flow continues. It gets bigger every day. So this is another one. Wealth concentration is a disaster. We are the same disaster path created by the same system, environment, and this. Last one that I wanted to, the third one that I wanted to talk about is the artificial intelligence. That's where the whole idea of artificial intelligence came. I said there's plenty of unemployment in the world. Many countries have unemployment. Poor countries have unemployment given. They don't have enough jobs to start their life, etc. But we talk about the rich countries. If you just start with Italy, Italy has 40% youth unemployment. A rich country where 40% of the young people have no jobs. In some areas of Italy, particularly in the south, in Naples and other areas, youth unemployment is as high as 60%. I said, what kind of rich country is it? That you cannot provide opportunities for young people who have gone to school, have good education, good technology in their hand, but no job. Only thing politician can promise, we'll give you unemployment subsidy, we'll give you welfare payment, so don't shout, don't go on the street, just be quiet, we'll give you some money. That's not a solution. That's an insult. But this is the solution. And you go into other countries in Europe, Spain has 45% youth unemployment. You go to Greece, they are almost as same as Spain. And so very high rate of youth unemployment, no solution. Only political solution, give money to them, run a big deficit. That's a big trouble within European Union. European Union doesn't want each country to go beyond a certain amount of budget deficit. If you go above, their rules get activated. So that's the only thing, that you have to be within your budget to support these people so that they cannot make political trouble for you. I'm not worrying about the political trouble. I'm talking about individual, a creative individual not being able to explore his or her own creative capacity because system doesn't allow that. So what kind of system are we talking about now? It has a wealth concentration, you have unemployment, you have earth, environmental hazards, and so on. So these are nature. Then comes the artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is a simple thing. It's a technology. And I'm a big fan of technology. The whole story of Grameen Bank, all our work, is based on technology. We try to adopt technology at every step. So we are not enemies of technology. We are very enthusiastic supporters and promoters of technology. Then I try to remind something. What does technology do for people? Why do they do the thing they do? The point that I try to elaborate, I said technology doesn't have its own mind, doesn't have its own eyes. It's the people who have the eyes, who have the mind. Technology is designed exactly what people think, exactly what people see. So whatever your thinking is, you design technology to do that. Technology doesn't go into empty area, or this is empty, we should go and fill this up with technology. It's not like that. It's your own mind which creates the technology. Whatever you see need to be addressed, you address it. So we, human beings, drive the technology. We are the drivers of technology. This sounds like a very simple statement. It is a simple statement. Drivers of technology are the class of people who want to make more money. Most of the technology is developed to make money. So money makers become the prime driver of technology. Ordinary people don't go in technology. It's the money makers. They want to make more money. That's why they develop technology, invest in technology, continue with technology. This is one big driver. I'm not saying individuals are completely immune from doing that. They do, but a very small part. But the major part is that people who are looking for big money, they want to design the technology for the purpose of making money. And in order to make money, you have to do something to solve people's problem. Otherwise, you're going to make money. So you solve problem to make money. So that's one direction. Another direction is people who are in military. So the war makers are the drivers of technology. Money makers are the drivers of technology. These are the two drivers of technology. So technology runs in that direction. Wherever you have any promise that you can destroy human being with one click, and governments will pour in money so that you can give me the technology so that I can push a button and destroy the whole world. That's killing technology. And that flourishes. This is one of the prime drivers of technology. Sometimes you create technology for military purpose, but later on you found some peaceful application of that technology. It's an afterthought. But originally it was designed to help the military to do their thing. But later on, somebody else thought, I can make money out of that. So they came back to do that thing. So these are the two drivers. Whether these are good or bad, that's up to you. But this is the thing. I'm saying there is no social business driver. Or even if it is very few of them, very small part of it, who develop technology to help people. The only purpose. There is no other purpose of that. So that part is a very thin part of the whole thing. And as a result, technology can be two kinds. Technology can be a blessing. Technology can be a curse. So that's my point. What direction artificial technology is going? Artificial technology can be a blessing. Artificial intelligence can be a curse, can destroy people. So that curse part is my worry, not the blessing part. Blessing part we welcome. There are so many opportunities to use artificial intelligence for blessing. To one huge area is, of course, healthcare. You bring into artificial technology in the healthcare, it does amazing things. You can bring it to education, it can do amazing things. So a lot of amazing things can be done. This is on the other side, the border. I'm worrying about the red line that guides the technology, curse and the blessing. I don't want artificial intelligence to get into the curse part. But the development of artificial technology is moving very fast on the curse part. What it does, we get familiar with artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence can get the job done cheaper, quicker than human being. Now, who is interested in that kind of technology? It's, of course, the money makers. This is a great opportunity. I spend less, my bottom line gets better because my cost of production goes down. All I have to do is to remove the people, put the artificial intelligence in his place. And I get richer by doing that. Already they are the one who is 1% wealth holders. And now on top of it, you bring artificial intelligence, squeeze the whole world more so that your wealth becomes fatter than it used to be. Today, 1% is shared by 99%. Tomorrow, 0.5% will be shared by 99%. That's the direction it's taking to, wealth concentration part. Second part, you remove people. Put attention to the words remove. You are removing people who are in work to bring technology in his place. Where does this guy go? You removed him. Here we talk about the youth unemployment. He never saw a job yet. That is 30%, 40%, 50%. Now this is the people who are already on the job. You are taking them off. Question is, what will be his future? McKinsey report tells us in the next 15 years, not in 50 years, 15 years, in the next 15 years, nearly 500 million people will be out of job. Where will this 500 million people go? Only in 15 years. What will happen in 20 years? What will happen in 30 years? Will human being be on the job at all? If artificial intelligence is so good, why should it wait for only 500 million? It will continue and continue faster. So this is the direction which creates another big crisis. What will be the position of human being on this planet? Will human beings survive at all? If I'm taking them off the job, some promoters of artificial intelligence keep saying, oh, this is a great life that we are waiting for with artificial intelligence. Why? Because finally we have reached the ultimate of human success. What is the success? Success is, after we achieve this, human beings don't have to work. They enjoy their life. Just sit and enjoy music, enjoy better things in life, don't have to work because machines are working. I said, sounds very good. But who is bringing food on their table? Those listening to the music. Somebody has to bring food. He has no income. They have a response to that. They said, well, you are wrong in that. Why? Because governments will bring universal basic income. Everybody will have a minimum income. So you don't have to worry. You'll get your monthly check in your mailbox every month. So you take care, that will take care of your food and everything else. The machine will be working and you enjoy your life. I said, is this the fate of human being on this planet? Ultimately, all of us will become beggars. Somebody has to feed us. I said, the ultimate of human being, I thought, is to take the world at our control and make life as we want. Not become at the mercy of government. What government, I don't know, but somehow they will feed us. And for doing what? So that rich people can get richer. Is this the analysis that you give me? I said, sorry, I cannot accept the world where all people have to become beggars. I'm too proud to be a human being, a creative being. I want to use my creative power to change the world, not accept the world and go and listen to the music. I don't want that. So this is the kind of world I don't want to see for myself. Then on top of it, something else happens. Artificial intelligence not only replacing human being on the job, we are told, I may be wrong, we are told artificial intelligence will become more and more intelligent as days go by machine learning, by the algorithm. Human beings don't have to teach them anymore. They are autonomous artificial intelligence. They learn by themselves. They create their own self to address the things that need to see addressed. So soon they will be as intelligent as human beings because they grow. And once they become as intelligent as human beings, they'll cross that line, become more intelligent than human beings, double the intelligence than human beings, because there's no limit, because they become intelligent by itself, by themselves. They don't, no human interventions are needed. If this is true, then you can think it will become 10 times as intelligent as human being. I try to imagine a world where machines are running the world, and they are 10 times as intelligent than human beings. Just an imagination. And ask myself the question, what will be the relationship between the human being and the artificial intelligence? Who will be the boss? I said, in my imagination, I see, if artificial intelligence is 10 times as intelligent as human being, they will look at human beings as some kind of cockroaches on this planet. Stupid beings. Don't understand anything. We try to explain, they don't understand. And they make a mess of this world. They consume. Machines don't consume, they consume. And in the process, they complicate the whole fighting and everything among themselves, making a big chaos. I said, maybe in that time, some artificial intelligence will call up their pest control department, say, come and clean up the mess. We don't need them anymore. Enough is enough for us. That's the kind of direction we are moving. I hope I'm wrong in interpretation, but if that is true, this is the most dangerous path human being ever taken in the past. Once you get it started, you can't stop. Still probably has time before we bring wholesale artificial intelligence, logarithm, algorithm, and all the self-made intelligence that continues to grow. It is the end of the human being on this planet. It can, either you become slaves of the artificial intelligence. Definitely you're not controlling the artificial intelligence, that's for sure. You started to control it to remove the people from the job. Now they control you because they are smarter. You have no option from that. I said, this artificial intelligence is a sure path of curse. We should adopt a global universal policy on artificial intelligence. That doesn't exist today. That's the reason I'm arguing this. We need to have a universal regulation. And people get very upset when I say that. Technology people get very upset. They think that they are doing something fantastic for the world. When I talk about regulation, they get very concerned. Technology cannot be controlled. I said, sure it can. As long as human beings are the boss, they can do that. And we do it all the time. It's nothing new. Have you ever tried to develop a medicine to cure cancer, cure tuberculosis, whatever disease you can, diabetics, or name it? You work for years in your laboratory. Very good quality researchers, scientists work hard for years to develop a medicine to treat the patient on that particular disease. And finally, you found something. You tried it out, and every time you get a good result, and then you said you got it after 10 years or 5 years. Can you go and sell this medicine in the pharmacy, in the store? Nobody will allow you to do that. What you have to do, you have to go to the government department of health, drug administration. You have to submit all the research reports that you got and wait for years again for the government to test it out, whether it has a side effect, whether it really works, which kinds of cases it works. After they have satisfied themselves, then they will give you permission to sell it. That's a control on technology. But there is no control on artificial intelligence. You can do anything with artificial. I said, why don't we make a simple legislation, global legislation, universal legislation, saying that you cannot develop a technology, and more broad, not just AI, is a general thing. You cannot develop any technology which is harmful to people. There is general statement. Then you elaborate what is harmful, what is not, etc. But general consensus should be there cannot be any technology which is harmful to people. So technology developers have to come and demonstrate that it is not harmful to people. Only then you'll be allowed to use it. And the second rule would be no technology can be developed which is harmful to the planet. We cannot destroy our home. So if you are, on these two counts, you have to pass. You have to get approval that yes, to the extent you have developed it, up to this level, it is safe for human being. Up to this level, it's safe for the planet. But if you cross this limit, then you have to come back to us. Get permission again. That's the only way we can save ourselves. So that's the direction when I say artificial intelligence is something, to me, appears like a dangerous path today. But we can make all our efforts to keep the artificial intelligence on the blessing side, not slip it over to the curse side. So this is the line that we're talking about. So this, the technology part, we have to be very careful because we are now saying that you see it in the newspaper, such and such big global company retrenched 10,000 people in this country, 5,000 people in that country. It comes in the newspaper all the time. And say, when is the autonomous truck being introduced? We have a date. Companies announce such and such date, we'll start autonomous trucks in the United States. What happens to those truck drivers if you get the autonomous trucks running? Autonomous taxis. You get excited. We'll have a service by the autonomous taxi service. You will. But what happened to the taxi driver? So every time you have anything you hear about artificial intelligence, ask yourself the question, what happened to the guy behind it who is being replaced? Where did he go? Their argument is, again, they're beautiful arguments. Their argument is, okay, don't worry about it. Every technology have created that situation. Old technology goes, people go with it, but the new technology comes, people come back. Or people find out other opportunities. I said, yes, that's fine, but you have to tell me what are the other opportunities. You just kind of in your sweep of your hand say they will have avatar. You have to spell it out. We are talking about 500 million people in 15 years. What are the other opportunities they have so that they can have live a life of their own? Oh, there are so many opportunities. I said, no, that's fine, but what are the opportunities in your country, in your city? They go some places. Where will they go? You have to specify that. You just can't walk away saying they will find their jobs. Then my question is, if they find a job someplace, who guarantees that artificial intelligence will not take over next day? Because you have a system where you have people, you replace it. That's the whole basic theory behind artificial intelligence. Because machines are smarter than human beings, cheaper than human beings. So you have no place, no way to run away. By your own definition, you got caught. There's no hiding place. In previous occasions, there was no such thing. If I have developed some technology in the railway, I have some opportunity in trade or something else, in business or something. But here, there's no hiding place. Wherever you go, artificial intelligence can go any place. There's no specific place that you can use artificial intelligence. So this is the kind of issue that I've been raising, and I want people to discuss it, prove me wrong. I'm not claiming that I have found the real question to raise. To me, it bothers me. When you packed all these three together, environment, concentration of wealth, and the poverty that goes with it, and then artificial intelligence, all combined force is something which cannot give us much hope for future. My only appeal is, let's get moving to make sure we are not in the disaster path. We are in a path to go to a new direction, new destination. And I try to define it. What is the new destination? I define it by saying, I will try to create, or let's all try to create a world, new world, with 3 zeros. 0 poverty, 0 unemployment, zero net carbon emission. And it can be done. That's my point. Nothing is impossible for a human being. That's my ultimate issue. If we put our mind into it, we'll make it happen. The present civilization that we are passing through, which is a dangerously close to disaster, the present civilization is essentially based on greed. It's a greed-driven civilization. We have to move out of greed-driven civilization to a new civilization which is driven by caring and sharing. And it's possible, it's inside of human being. Theory made us forget that. We are human beings. We are not money-making robots. Present theory made us into money-making robots. We don't see anything else. I said, let's discover ourselves as a human being who cares for the world, who cares for everybody else. So the fact that the theory has assumed all human beings are driven by self-interest. I said, that's where the doom was defined. Because we became driven by self-interest. Theory created us. That's not what it is, the purpose of the theory. Theory is to create our own world, not theory to create us. In the present process, we shaped ourselves according to the theory. We forgot who we were. We were not self-interest driven beings. We are self-interest driven and collective interest driven people. Collective interest part is completely forgotten. We are focusing on personal interest. So once we add this collective interest part of it, then we come nearer to what human beings are truly is. All the creative capacity to use it for the purpose of a small part of self-interest, major part of collective interest. So we create a new civilization. And from here we depart, and as quickly as possible, we head for a new civilization, which we can do, because as we imagine, we can make it happen. That's my appeal. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Now, we would like to start the sustainability dialogue session. I would like to ask Mr. Tatsuo Kawasaki to moderate the session. Mr. Kawasaki, please.
Thank you very much.
Hello, and welcome to the panel discussions. My name is Tatsuo Kawasaki, and today's moderator of the panel discussions. But after the very impressive, very dramatic Professor Yunus' presentation, I was a little bit shocked, so to speak. And because, the Professor Yunus pointed out some, pros and cons of the artificial intelligence, and that's give us a tremendous impact on the planet. So first of all, I've got the impression that AI has a big, risky impact on the planet. Maybe a doom of our planet is very dark. But after that, Professor Yunus summing up that there is a hope, we can resolve that kind of sort of the horror stories of the planet. And today, I would like to invite, of course, Professor Yunus as a panelist, and two more gentlemen. One is Dr. Uzzaman, Anis Uzzaman, and Mr. Jerome Britton as a panelist of this discussion. Please, go ahead.
Fireside chat.
So, yeah, let me introduce very briefly Professor Yunus. Needless to say, his career. And two more gentlemen, Dr. Anis Uzzaman. He made a wonderful, very exciting presentation this morning. And he's a general partner and CEO of the Pegasus Tech Venture that's based in Silicon Valley, California. And he made a wonderful, introduction about his, the investment to the SpaceX or other very exciting project. So today, I'm looking for him contributing how you can work together with the social business ventures. And the next gentleman is Mr. Jerome Britton. And he made also very interesting presentation yesterday. And he is a regional attorney, may I say that? Yes. Regional attorneys and healthcare education and public administrations for Microsoft in Singapore. And maybe Mr. Jerome make a very interesting comment to the Professor Yunus' warning about artificial intelligence, the risk of the artificial intelligence today. So today's objective of this discussion is kind of the evaluation of the innovative technologies. And of course, Professor Yunus pointed out some climate change issues and also artificial intelligence risks. But I would rather focus on technology side this time. So question is how we can utilize information technologies to solve the social problems and to achieve the social development goals, and what sort of the impact those innovative technologies on social business. That's a kind of the general question of this discussions. So first of all, I would like to ask Dr. Uzzaman and Mr. Britton, how you respond to the Professor Yunus' presentation this time. So I would like to know your comments or any other additional comments or those kind of things. Could you start?
Me first?
Yeah,
I'll go first.
okay.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you, Professor Yunus, for your helpful remarks. I found it extremely interesting and very enlightening. I think that one thing that I thought of as you were speaking was a story going back to the year 1888. There was a woman named Bertha Benz who was the wife of a man named Carl Benz. Carl Benz eventually became known as an automobile manufacturer. Mercedes-Benz is partially named after him. Bertha Benz was interesting. She was the first person to make an intercity car journey, intercity automobile journey. And while she was traveling from one city to, I think she was going to her parents' house, which was about 100 kilometers away, she was driving down the road that went through farmers' fields, and these farmers, it was the first time they'd ever seen an automobile on the road. They were running away screaming that there was a witch coming. And I think that really demonstrates sometimes the reaction that we have to new technologies. That, you know, we see the drawbacks and the negativity of it. And I think the solution to that, I agree, you know, there are harmful effects. We all know there are harmful effects of automobiles, and there can be. And how have we sought to address those over time is through regulation. You know, you can't come up and say, well, I'm going to drive my automobile at whatever speed I like down the road because it's mine and, you know, it's my right to do so. No, we've come in and we've said you have a speed limit and you need to comply with the speed limit. We've come in and we've set regulations on how automobiles should be made, the emission standards, and these are all laws that are passed that constrain the use of the technology. And so I think, and I fully endorse your call for regulation of these new technologies, including artificial intelligence, including cloud computing, Internet of Things, blockchain, you name it. I think there is a severe need and an urgent need for governments and international organizations to step up and to find solutions to these and to regulate. I think that we need to come together. I think your voice is very important. I think we need the voice of academia. We need the voice of philosophers. We need the voice of industry. We need the voice of investors. We need the voice of civil society and governments, everybody to come together, take a look at this issue and identify what are the principles that we want to hold sacred and respect and preserve as we seek to develop these regulations. And that was the focus of some of my remarks yesterday of, you know, the conversation that we've kicked off, or that we contributed to, I guess, a few years ago at Microsoft to announce 6 principles that we thought, not claiming that we have all the answers, but 6 principles that we thought would be helpful to initiate the conversation around artificial intelligence. So we took a look at, we want to make sure that artificial intelligence is fair, that it respects timeless values of privacy and security, that it's reliable and safe, that it's inclusive of populations that might otherwise be marginalized or made vulnerable, that it's transparent, we know how it works, and that ultimately humans are accountable for what they create. And so I think, you know, as we have a conversation and as we all contribute our principles to the conversation, I think then we'll be able to come up with some of this urgently needed regulation. Personally, I'm long-term optimistic, very long-term optimistic. But I agree that in the short term and the medium term, we have a lot of work to do and time's wasting.
Thank you very much for having me. So I feel that, you know, I'm a big supporter of technology, and that's where I invest the most. If you look at top 10 AI technologies that are coming out in the world, most probably I have invested in 5 of them. So I have to be very positive, but I agree to Dr. Yunus's comments that, you know, we need to be also careful that how we not use those technologies so that they can be used to hurt people, right? One of the biggest concern I think I see that with the invent of artificial technology, we are seeing that, you know, a lot of people are worried about losing their jobs. That's one of the big social impacts, because people are losing their jobs, how it can be doing good to anyone, right? But at the same time, I think it can also help improving the life quality and life, from the space of healthcare to pollution control. These are some of the areas where artificial intelligence and IoT can have a big impact and can improve the life quality, improve the number of accidents you know, that we have. I think, you know, with autonomous driving in play, I'm investing in a lot of technologies that are helping to avoid accidents, and those are artificial intelligence. So it can be used in good ways also, in Asian countries, I see a lot of the accidents are happening because, the traffic rules are loose, but technology can come into the play and help the loose, laws and regulations to actually bypass and basically help prevent the lives and help improve the quality of life in society. So there's good and bad parts. It depends on how you use it.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's a very interesting point. Professor Yunus,
let's keep our minds open, that's it. One is the suggestion that I make when this controversy comes up. I said, yes, you'll see the future is bright and happening. Those who will lose job, they'll get some other job. But make it a rule that if you're replacing human being by machine, the people who are quitting the job, getting out of the job, the company maintains them until their retirement age. Or they find a job for them. This should be required thing. You say there will be something. It is the company's responsibility to make sure, because you are pushing them out because of the machine, you have to maintain them until either you found them appropriate jobs or continue to pay them until their retirement age. Fine, no problem. You keep them. So whoever replaces it, you have a responsibility. Today, they have no responsibility. Just come one fine day and notice that your job is done. 10,000, 20,000 people, 100,000 people. That's something is not acceptable. So that is not, society cannot accept that kind of thing. They will find some job. It's a human being you're talking about. What is this life all about? Why are you reducing the cost in the first place? To help people, or you make yourself rich? What is your question in your mind? What is the purpose of this artificial intelligence? So you have to weigh the cost of it, not just the cost of your replacement of machine by putting machine replacing human being, cost to the society. What is the cost? And that cost has to be borne by the company who is replacing them. And that's one thing has to be added. Otherwise, we are up for a disaster. And it's happening so fast. It's not a slow motion. We're not talking about 50 years, 100 years. It is happening in 10 years and 15 years. And it's a tsunami that's coming. And unless that is built in now, it's not for future, it's now, right now, it will kill the whole economy and everything else.
It's a very urgent issue. Yeah.
Can I make a comment on that? I think, Dr. Yunus has a very good point. I think there is a short-term problem, but let's think about this. When we did not have emails, we had post office, right? And there are people who are working in the post office. And when email was invented, then we came and met e-commerce. And today, if you see, like maybe 50% people in the US and Japan, they do not go to the groceries. We are using e-commerce. So we are not writing letters anymore. So the postman is not doing, maybe not doing 100% of the things they used to do before, but those people are helping with the e-commerce deliveries because you need more deliveries now because you do not go to the supermarket anywhere. So what has happened in some of the developed society, like in the US or in Japan, that the job when, because post office is not doing what they used to do before, but now there is e-commerce which needs a lot of delivery, like we need those people in the other sector. But these countries have done a good job with the regulation where the job shifted to a right direction even when the technology came in. So one of the ways to think about it, or maybe if the regulations and the government works together, I think is to shift those jobs to the right place so that this kind of social impact does not happen in the short term, in a small time period.
Yeah, I think it's not, personally I think it's probably not quite as easy, well, not quite as easy perhaps as that suggests, but at the same time I don't think it's quite as dire, Professor Yunus, maybe as you suggest. I think I have one presentation that I give where I do a bit of a thought experiment, and I put up 4 pictures. I have a picture of Harry Potter, I have a picture of the actress Robin Wright, I have a picture of President Dwight Eisenhower, and I have a picture of the actor Gary Cooper. And I say, what do all 4 of these people have in common? I mean, some are fictional, some are politicians, some are dead, some are alive. And the commonality really is in their surnames, in their family names. Potter, Cooper, Wright, or Wheelwright, and Eisenhower, which is a German name for iron hewer. They're all professions and jobs that used to exist that, if they exist at all today, exist in a much different and much more limited form. You look at taxi drivers and truck drivers. They didn't exist 120 years ago. You think about the jobs today around how many people grew up my age. I'm 40 years old. I did not grow up thinking I want to be a data scientist because I didn't think that existed. I want to be a social media manager because that didn't exist at the time. There was a study published, I believe it was by IDC, that said the children entering, and this is a couple years old, it said the children entering public school today, by the time that they graduate, the jobs that will be available at that time, 60% of them don't even exist today. And I think that one area that's a major failing currently of the education system is we don't train people for that sort of environment. We look to what the jobs are today and we train people for that. We don't think about, well, what are the jobs going to be? And we don't necessarily train people with the skills to be able to move into those jobs of the future when we can't predict what they are. And so I think we need to be able to move away from this model of spending the first 20 or 30 years training somebody for the profession that then they're going to do for the next 30 or 40 years of their life. Because I don't think that works in 21st century society. I think we need to adapt to be able to encourage lifelong learning, to be able to encourage adaptation. And at the same time, we do need to account for the people that are going to fall through, the people that are not going to be able to retrain from being a truck driver to a data scientist. And we do need to be able to put, because to your point, Professor Yunus, those are people, and we do need to take care of them. So that will require a restructuring of social safety nets as well. This is not something that is easy, and it's not something that has a silver bullet solution. But I would just add one more thing as well. We've done this before. 50 years ago, the number of women that worked in the workplace was small as a percentage. Now we have, depending on your country, you have 30 to 80% of women in the workplace. And with more people in the workplace because of that, and as well as the result of a growing population that's doubled, unemployment is still at historic, relatively historic lows if you look at it, over the entire economic cycle. There are fluctuations up and down. But we have been able to create new jobs. We've been able to absorb this number of people into the workforce, and I'm confident we'll be able to do it again, given the right policies.
Yeah, I think there's a point that's I a little bit come back to the AI's ethical issues. But one aspect of the artificial intelligence is that, as Professor Yunus pointed out, people who can be replaced by artificial intelligence. In other words, the jobs and skills are replaced by the artificial intelligence. Those people exist, and they are facing unemployment in the future. But on the other hand, the people who utilize artificial intelligence as a technology to brush up his or her skills more and becoming rich. So that's gap between the haves and the have-nots is going to widen. That's my view. But how we can solve? I don't think that we have a very straightforward, panacea to solve the questions. But how do you see that kind of the division, risk of the division of the people, and that may create new unemployment? Professor Yunus, do you have any comments?
Well, two comments. One is we're talking about alternatives like the women and the post office and all that. The key point I was making, once artificial intelligence gets into the picture, there's no hiding place for a human being. Wherever you go, he can do it better. That's the whole principle of artificial intelligence. You move from the post office, you go to some place, artificial intelligence will go you there, throw it out from you. It's very quickly it will be done. It will not wait. Once you learn how to do the artificial intelligence, it's a very simple thing. So that's the whole danger. In older days, that didn't exist. So I can lose job here, I can have another job. It's a business model One business model got me out, I got into another business model, I have a place there. We are talking about a technology, a basic technology where the principle is machine can do better than what you do, whatever you do. If you are an artist, artificial intelligence will draw better than you. If you are a journalist, artificial intelligence will do better journalism than you do. If you are a newscaster, already they are doing that, you will be better newscaster, artificial intelligence than yourself. If you are a singer, artificial intelligence will sing better. If you are a writer, artificial intelligence will write better book than you. So that we have no hiding place anymore. Wherever you go, they do it better. That's the danger part of it. Another part I wanted to discuss, any business starts with the kind of alternative, the worst case scenario. Why can't you work the worst case scenario? Suppose it will not happen. In case it happens, what will you do? Let's do that. You should brush it off that, oh, it will never happen. It's not as bad as that. I don't think this is a time to do that because we are talking about millions and millions of people's life. So you cannot say, well, something will be worked out. It's not that easy. So we have to come with the worst case scenario. If that happens, this is our backup plan. This is how we back it up. Let's work on the backup instead of just brushing it off.
Yeah. So the interesting thing, everyone, the people who are going to lose the highest job because of AI, number one, doctors, and number two, lawyers, and they are the richest people. So those
makes
are the
me
two
really
domains.
comfortable as a lawyer.
So, sorry, Jaron, no offense to you, but the lawyers and doctors are going to lose the highest job. That's what is said. I think it's well known because all the lawyers actually do a lot of analysis and stuff. Obviously, they have their personal opinion, but AI can actually form that opinion to a certain level. That's why I think many paralegal jobs, for example, will get replaced, right? But obviously, expert has to exist there. So the biggest amount of job people are going to lose is the medical sector and the legal sector. That's what is told, not the labor sector yet, right? But let's look at another side of it. In countries like Japan, in the US, if you open a factory here in Fukuoka, I can guarantee you that there is not enough people to work there. It's the other way around. And I have got many of my clients in Japan, they contacted me that, can you find some robotics AI solution because of the growth of the aged people in Japan? We need solution so that we can still be manufacturing the stuff that we need to manufacture. Right? I have got a car company from Nagoya, which is the car country. They contacted me and they wanted AI solution so that they can still keep running their factories rather than moving it to other countries. So there is problem of people losing the job, but also there is issue where there is not enough people to do the job. I know Gap, you buy pants and shirt in Gap. You'll be surprised that most of the packaging is done by AI today because there is not enough people on labor in San Francisco to actually, you can hire and do those things. So it has to be a robot which is doing it. So there is other side of it that we are seeing also. It's different, but that's what it is.
And I would say, as a lawyer, this is a conversation that I've had with other lawyers as well, is that the way law is practiced today has changed. If you look at how law was practiced 100 years ago versus how it's practiced today, even if you look at the way law was practiced when I was a trainee 10 years ago, it's changed. The way it used to be is that you would go to law school, you'd leave law school, you'd spend your first couple of years doing a lot of grunt work. You would, if you were a transactional lawyer, you'd be looking at endless amounts of documents in preparation for a merger. And what that does is it allows you to see what risks that company has, but at the same time it trains you to understand what these documents look like. The other thing, if you're a litigator, you do what's called discovery, which means you go through endless amounts of emails and documents and everything, looking for anything that might be relevant to your case or to the other side's case. And what that does is it trains you to issue spot. It trains you to find issues. Now, the challenge that the legal profession is encountering now is that those are things that AI does very well. AI can recognize those patterns. And so how do you train young lawyers then on these documents, and how do you train them on the way the contract's supposed to look if it's so much cheaper and so much easier to have an AI system do it? Even when I was practicing, they were using technology. It wasn't artificial intelligence at the time. They were using technology to be able to sift through all the garbage, all the stuff that was clearly not something that would be interesting. And the way they did that was with search technology, just keyword searches. And then you'd look through all these documents that returned some of those keywords. So the way the profession is practiced will change as well. And I think the key in that is recognizing, I actually have to disagree with you that AI does not do everything better and will never do everything better than people. There are some things that humans uniquely do better than AI ever will. AI is very good at pattern recognition. AI is very good at doing routine tasks. AI is not good at compassion. AI is not good at empathy. I don't see a world where nurses will ever be replaced because people need that human interaction that an AI system cannot provide. And AI may be able to do a lot of routine nursing tasks that nurses currently do, but that then frees up the nurses to focus on what only a human can do best. And I think that that's really where we should direct the training, is to really use the technology for what it does well, because it's helpful and it enables us to do so much more. But focus really on what is uniquely human and what can we uniquely do.
My question is, from your example, when AI does all the groundwork for a lawyer, my question is, as a client, should I hire an artificial intelligence lawyer or a human lawyer? The artificial intelligence lawyer not only knows the law, it also studies the judge, studies his past record, it studies everything, it already gains all the experience and so on, which a human lawyer doesn't have all those information. It depends on somebody else's input. Artificial intelligence, all the inputs inside of him. So I would rather hire an artificial intelligence lawyer for me. I wouldn't go to a human lawyer. So that's the risk that I'm talking about. And you said there are some things would be still not be reached by artificial intelligence. This will be left outside their scope. First of all, I would say that human beings should be happy with the leftovers. We are not here to be satisfied with leftovers. We command things. That's what the human beings are all about. We are not taking something is not being done. Artificial intelligence didn't do it, so let's do it. That's not the kind of role I see as a human being. I want to be in control, in command of everything. That's the role I see in human being, and artificial intelligence is a threat to that. That's the risk that I feel, and we should be prepared for that. Either we stop it right now, or we find out a very comfortable answer to that. That answer doesn't exist.
Yeah, and I would agree with you on that. Is that, you know, artificial intelligence needs to serve people. At the end of the day, humans need to be at the center of it, and it needs to be there to serve us. And I think, you know, to your question, would you rather an AI lawyer or a human lawyer? What about a human lawyer who uses AI? To me, I think that would be a great outcome.
Yeah, human lawyer will need artificial intelligence. Yep. That's fine. But the artificial intelligence lawyer is far more equipped than depending on somebody else's input. He's self-prepared. He knows all the laws. He knows the history of the judge, history of the court, history of everything, and he argues in a way which makes sense immediately to the judge, if the judge is a human being. If that artificial judge the judge is also a human being, we are in danger now. What kind of thing we got? This is the direction we're going. This is not something that we laugh it away. It's a very serious matter. Where does the end of artificial intelligence? Do we have a limit? Can you, first of all, define where artificial intelligence ends? It doesn't go further. If you can draw that line, I'll be very happy to talk about it.
And I think that's the role of regulation right there. You just nailed it. That's where the regulation needs to be.
You talk about the regulation. For me, government doesn't exist. Artificial intelligence is the government. So who are they regulating whom? They will be regulating people, not the artificial intelligence themselves. Do we have a government left? If you put artificial intelligence in your bureaucracy every time, and they will soon say, why are you ministers? What do the ministers do? What does the prime minister do? I can do better than that. The stupid prime minister makes all kinds of funny decisions. He's not consistent. Get him out.
You don't need an artificial intelligence to be better than that.
So So even if you agree that it's already time has come to do that, artificial intelligence will do it faster.
Judge cannot be replaced by the AIs, So.
It's a crazy world. That's what.
And yeah, this is a little bit a tricky case, but how do you think that the entrepreneur could be replaced by the AI?
There's no limit. You'll be a better entrepreneur.
Yeah. So that means,
And
AI.
He doesn't need your permission to become an entrepreneur.
Oh, yeah, of course. Somebody
Yeah.
has permission.
He does it himself.
Right. Yeah, then, AI could, create a new jobs, in the future. Do you make an investment?
I think, so I think, we should use artificial intelligence in the areas where it can improve life quality. So that's the point.
Yeah.
So I think, like, for example, I see it impacts a lot how we drive. I invest a lot into technologies where the car can save yourself, right? I do a lot. I recently invested in a company that actually can tell you exactly stop the car if you are like sleepy, for example, or dizzy, because it can find out that if you're dizzy. There is a lot of technology that are helping improve how the surgery is done, complicated surgery, open heart surgery. So Google is driving a program right now. So you know that now the robot can actually go inside your body and do the surgery. So a human doctor has to operate the robot, but the robot can actually kind of enhance the doctor's finger movements, and you can actually do a surgery. So using AI, what Google is doing, they are telling the doctor they will stop the robot when you are about to go and make a mistake. What they're doing, they're taking all the death cases from thousands of surgeries where people died. They learned from it. So whenever the doctor is going to make a mistake, the robot will stop. So that's a good application, right? I mean, so in the future, most probably 100% of the brain surgeries or open heart surgeries will be done by a physician, but with a robot with AI powered by Google. So that's a good application, right? Because it saves human life. So I think it's the way we use it, right, as Dr. Yunus mentioned.
But my guess is what the scenario that you give, that the human being will be guided by the artificial intelligence surgery and all that. I said, that will not just end there. It will be artificial intelligence doctor who will do the surgery better than the surgeon. This is the problem. If he can guide, he can do it himself. He's a teacher. He guides you. So why do you need this guy? Get him out. So get out. Let me do it. Because you're messing it up. So that's the danger. And we like that because life is saved. So we are very happy about that. I'm not against artificial intelligence of that score. I'm against if artificial intelligence is taking away jobs from people en masse just because he's a human being. Our machine can do better than that. But a specialized thing, yes, of course, we can do that. That's something that we can deal with, but not a wholesale thing. That's why I'm always insisting on the line to be drawn, a blessing versus a curse. If it is a curse, if you know this is a curse, this is the time we draw the line and make it stop. You don't even do research on that one. Finish. You cannot enter the territory at all. We have to do that.
And I think that really displays, and I think we're all in agreement, that every technology, and we're talking about artificial intelligence here, but every technology has a positive application and negative application. The extreme example of that was nuclear power, right? Is that you had nuclear weapons that could destroy the world and nuclear power that provided a clean alternative to coal burning at the time. And just to go, I think, to the first part of your presentation around sustainability and environmental sustainability, I think that's an exciting area where a lot of artificial intelligence can be, has a lot of interesting applications. I was watching a video, there were some researchers at a university in New South Wales in Australia, and what they have is they have a robot powered by AI that is able to go through crops and precision irrigate the crops, rather than the current situation where you just spray out water everywhere, like vast, double-digit percentages of the world's fresh water are being wasted through poor irrigation practices. And this robot goes through, it's able to identify the plants and squirt water directly at the plants to be able to irrigate them, and they just leave the rest of the soil that doesn't have a plant growing in it, doesn't need to be irrigated. I think that's one example of areas. Also, autonomous vehicles. The role that they can play in reducing the number of vehicles on the road, in reducing the amount of traffic congestion and how much emissions get emitted worldwide just by cars idling stuck in traffic or driving at any given moment. I think 30% of cars in major cities are driving around looking for a place to park. That's just ridiculous. Artificial intelligence and connected technologies can really help to aid that. And there's many, many examples of that where we can eliminate wastage by using these resources more efficiently using new technology.
May I ask one question about technology development side? I understand that Microsoft is creating in-house committee to make a policy development policy principles, 6 principles. So in that way, big organization developer like a Microsoft could create such kind of ethical and moral, the evaluation team within the house. But on the other hand, if I understand correctly, the service application development areas quite recently based on a so-called open architecture or open source or collaborative approach to develop such kind of things. But how do you see that kind of open collaborative service development approach affects ethical issues or moral aspect of the not only AI but also all IT technologies? Because the open source based or open collaborative approach has no corporate regulations. Every people is very freely give the idea and create new applications or new services. So I'm a little bit worried about who is really considering the ethical aspect of the new applications or services created by such kind of open source spaces. Do you have any comments, or am I wrong?
No, that's a really interesting question. Yeah, just to mention, so we have a committee at Microsoft, just to explain the background. We have a committee at Microsoft, they call it the Ether Committee, which is an acronym that I won't try to remember right now what it stands for. But basically what it has a number of people employed by Microsoft. It has lawyers, it has engineers, it has data scientists, ethicists, philosophers, economists, to sit there, and what they do is they analyze new applications, new proposals for AI technology. They measure it against those principles that I mentioned earlier that we've adopted, to take a look, for example, at facial recognition, a proposed facial recognition technology, to see, does this project with this particular partner or customer, does it fit with our values as a company? Is this something that we want to be getting involved in and having our name associated with? And they have the power to shut down a project or a proposal if that is something that is not considered appropriate. It's an interesting point that you bring up open source that doesn't necessarily benefit from this sort of internal review board process. I think open source is really interesting. It's something that Microsoft has evolved a lot on over the last 20 years. We've gone from being relatively, it's no secret we were quite hostile to open source, to now we're the largest open source contributor in the world. I think number 2 is Facebook, and they have just slightly more than half the number of contributors that we do. We bought GitHub, which is the largest open source repository, just last year. Open source definitely, I think, has its place. It does not have every place, and I think you may have hit on one of the circumstances where perhaps it doesn't. One of the benefits of open source is that it's open, it's very transparent, and so people can take a look at it, they can see how it's programmed, they can check to make sure it's secure, check for backdoors and data leakages, all those sorts of things. So one way that open source is controlled, I think, is partly through that transparency, so that people can see, people can flag out, the public can flag out, hey, this software is doing this, we don't think that's appropriate. But I do think that there would be a role as well, not just relying on the do-gooder geeks, if I can say that, to talk about the concerns. But I do think that's where, if there was sort of standardized regulation conventions around what's appropriate and what's not, that could then rein some of that nefarious tendency in.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Just I want to ask a question, if possible. Sorry for the interruption. The title says social technology and social business to achieve SDGs in the era of digital transformation. So we have agreed, we human being has agreed that we have a goal now to achieve by the 2030. SDGs has a list of goals, 17 goals. So that's probably something that we can decide whether we take the blessing part of the technology or we take the curse part of it. Make sure that the curse part of the technology should not, come into place. Professor Yunus, he has a goal, 3 zeros to achieve. But for Anis, when you make a decision, like where to invest or where to divest, do you have any criteria, so that you can make a decision that the technology should do only the blessing part of it? For Microsoft as well, I think you use technologies to serve people. So do you have any guideline so that you make sure that it's really achieving what is good for the for human being?
So guys, in a year, I actually look about 50,000 deals. I invest in 30 to 40 of them in a deal in a year. So every 1,000 deal I'm seeing, I'm investing 1 deal out of 1,000. So it's a tough job, and I wish one of the days AI will help me. Not yet. So AI has not helped me yet, but some VCs are already doing AI. That's what I heard. That there are some AI-based VCs. So as we're investing, obviously the first part comes in the ethical question, that we will not invest in something unethical. Also, we look at the industry. That is very important. There are many industries that makes a lot of money. You can guess some of the interesting hidden industries. I think we cannot invest in those because we need to invest in companies that are doing good things. So even the open source thing came up is the same thing. Most of the people, there are more good people in the world than bad people, to be honest with you. And that's where I think we have to invest in technologies that can help betterment of life. Okay. Now, talking about how we decide to invest in a company, obviously, if it is a large company, you look at the performance. If it is a smaller company, like if you have an idea in your head and you just want to convince me, I will look at you and see that how fast you're going to give up. And I think, my personal artificial intelligence can detect that, you will most probably will give up or not give up. And that's what the kind of barometer for me as we invest. So that's kind of like we look into it from our point. It's pretty manual process. So people say that investment is a science or arts. And in Silicon Valley, people say it's an art because you look at people and decide that you're betting your money, your capital, your time on this individual human being because this person can make it or break it. So that's what it is.
I think where Microsoft stands, we're, I guess, a little bit different than a lot of technology companies in that we're not really interested in jumping into new industries or disrupting new, like we're not going to open a hospital or buy a pharmacy chain or something like that anytime soon. We aren't really interested at, blowing up current markets the way that they're structured. Rather, I think what we are focused on doing is providing building blocks to companies that are already in these industries so that they can transform themselves. And so I think that that's one area, and that's kind of the approach that we take. We give you tools, we give you blockchain tools or bot tools or AI tools, and then you can go use them to build what's going to make you more competitive or help you succeed with your aim. And I think that last point there is really where the tie-in with social business can come in, is that we'll provide you tools that then you can go to achieve the aims that you're trying to set out. is set out to achieve. We do proofs of concept, so we say, hey, we've developed this new tool. Here's an area that we think it could that could be a benefit to it, but we don't really seek to monetize that. We rather come out, it's a concept, and so we produce that. So I think that's one way to look at it. I do think that like I say, I think that there is a role for technology in all these things. I don't think technology is the silver bullet solution. Rather, technology has a role to play. You mentioned the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs from the UN. The UN has expressly acknowledged that AI has a role to play in achieving the SDGs. And so figuring out what that role is, and as importantly, what it is not, is something that's important to consider.
By the way, I will keep the time to opportunity to ask a question from the audience later. So if you have any questions. Okay. Microphone.
You can take this one.
Yeah. Students, can you help me? Thank you very much. I'm Rakibul Hussain from Bangladesh. First of all, I'd like to say it's a great honor to see Nobel laureate Dr. Muhammad Yunus, Bangladeshi, in front of me. I think it's one of the proudest moments of my life. So basically what I want to say is that some big names in investment are in front of me. Basically, many countries, many developing countries have dearth of capital in terms of investing in AI or other computer-related technologies. So basically, as Dr. Muhammad Yunus in his speech mentioned about the plastic wastes deposited in oceans or other places. So what are the investment plans made by your companies in related to renewable materials like cellulose, forest resources? Because particularly I'm doing research on nanocellulose, and I found out that its applications are huge. You have mentioned that SpaceX, where they're building great rockets and all. Even in those parts, you can use those nanocellulosic materials, and it's abundant. It's the most abundant natural polymer in the world. And even the developing countries has those. So do you have any plan, or I think you sure have plan on renewable resources, but do you have a specific plan on investing in cellulose-based renewable nanomaterials? Thank you.
So okay, I'm going to answer that question. Yes, the answer is yes. For example, I can give you a real example. I'm a very practical person. I'm investing in a company which does biodegradable plastic. So you are using a plastic, but if you throw out the plastic, it vanishes. So there are some chemical engineers are creating this biodegradable plastic where you create as many boxes, as many plastic bags as possible. You throw them out, it vanishes like this. And they have done a great job. It's a little bit expensive now, but eventually we can use the same plastic we're using today, but the plastic will vanish itself because it is created with some special chemical combinations that actually can do that. So yes, we actually invest in technologies that can help improve like those things as well, right? In terms of how we can have clean energy to biodegradable stuff that actually can help us with the pollution. You talked about plastic specifically. We need to clean up the ocean. I know that there is some activity going on, especially in countries like Indonesia and stuff. Like there is a huge issue with plastics and stuff. So there are volunteers that are working on, but at the same time, people are working in technologies that can actually improve, technologies that can help keep our current practices still, yet we will not be polluting the environment even if we keep those practices. So there are works going on, and I have invested in some companies like that.
Hello.
At first, I'd like to congratulate everybody for giving us such insights into the sustainability dialogue. My question is pretty much straightforward. I would like to ask Yunus sir a really simple question. Sir, you said that greed and self-interest is driving the technology choices and also in the development of AI, and it is ruining the life quality and the employment, and end of the day, the livelihood of millions of people. So my question is that you say that greed and self-interest is important influencers. So, could you please enlighten us with that? What sort of economic distribution system is befitting for achieving 3 zeros?
It's not a question of befitting, it's part of it. This is what we should be aiming at. That's the point I was making, that we can redesign the system where the present system of wealth moving in one direction to the top can be reversed. The wealth comes down to be shared by everybody else. And it's possible. It's a question of, as I said, it's a building a game. How you do that, it's nothing but that. So this will be part of that 3-0, zero poverty. So this poverty is a very unnatural thing for a human being. Natural human being is not a poor person, it's a fully equipped human being. But system makes people poor. So the fault is not the person, fault is the system. System which is a kind of one-way flow up all the wealth to the top. So how to undo that? How to redesign that? It's not that people at the top are bad people, they're very good people. There's no problem with that. Simply system makes it happen that way. So this is how to, the 3 zeros is a zero poverty, zero unemployment, and zero net carbon emission. So that once we achieve those, part of this will be, it will be achieved because of a redesigning of the system. Not by keeping it this way, you cannot achieve those 3. It's impossible. You have to redesign because ultimate result is this: creating poverty, creating unemployment, and creating environmental hazards. So unless you redesign it, we're not going anywhere. So that's where we should be putting our minds into, so that we can achieve those goals, making it happen.
Thank you, sir. Sir, as far as I believe that pure capitalism cannot achieve this, all this, pure capitalism. So
I wouldn't say pure existing system, whether it's pure, impure, you can go into a lot of controversies. Pure system is based on profit maximization. So no matter what we say in this forum, your ultimate goal is profit maximization, if you are in business. That's the only kind of business. And this is guided, this is controlled by the stock market. No matter how good you are inside the boardroom, your stock market will tell you what to do and what not to do. You have no choice in that. You can be a very ethical person, you can be a very principled person. You make compromises because your shareholders will be screaming if something goes wrong in the stock market. So stock market takes over your very company policy and so on and so forth. As long as that thing exists, you have no choice.
Got my answer. Thank you, sir.
I would say that's a legal requirement. You don't have a choice. You must pursue the stock market well.
You made it very clear. This is a legal requirement. So there's no other question.
Yeah. If you don't do that,
I'm
you'll
glad
get
you
sued.
made it so simple.
Yeah.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation. I have the question to all of the 3 panelists. I heard the keynote from the Jerome about the ethics of the AI principles, and then I would like you to share the 6 principles again, and what prevent to make it realize those principles in AI, or for the Professor Yunus, for how to say, it was the fairness and transparency, accountability, inclusiveness. So those were not achieved in our real human society yet. So what prevent to make it real in our real world, and what will prevent in the AI system? So could you answer for those questions?
Yeah, the prevention part is very simple. As I said, as a human being, we have to make a decision. Should we allow any technology, including, of course, artificial intelligence, to become harmful to people in general. We know it's harmful, and we still let it go. We should not do that. So you have to define what is harmful, et cetera, and make a rule that nobody can develop. If you're trying to develop that, you'll be stopped. That you have to justify that this is not going to be harmful. And only then you'll be, even if you have developed it, you'll not be allowed to use it. Like medicine, I gave the example of medicine. So that's a rule has to be adopted. That's a legislation has to, maybe even consensus, that the rule that nobody in the world should be allowed to do this. So draw a line, which is the curse part, where the curse begins and where the blessing starts. There should be, we all agreed here, technology can be a curse, technology can be a blessing. There's no disagreement in that. Disagreement comes when we draw the line. Of course there'll be disagreement. We debate and come to a consensus. First is this, we should not allow this. We should not allow nuclear weapon. We agree completely. Some may disagree a little bit, some may do. Finally, we come to nuclear disarmament agreement. Draw the line. We could not allow that. Then we say not only nuclear weapon, any weapons of mass destruction. Then you define what are the weapons of mass destruction. We will not allow anybody to produce it, anybody to stock it, anybody to use it. It's possible. Gradually, we come to other things, like artificial intelligence, which is replacing human being of this kind of work, suppose. Not all work, but this kind of work. And somebody, what about this kind of work? So you debate where we should do that. That's the point I'm raising, that we have to decide what is a curse, what is a blessing, and we draw the line and stick to it. We review it occasionally, no problem. But to begin with, you cannot keep it open. That's the danger, because once you keep it open, once they start coming in, it will be impossible to make those rules. Still, you have time to debate and draw those lines. That's the point I'm making.
I was just thinking that as you were talking about that, I think another problem comes in when any use causes harm to some other person. You know, when any use of a particular technology will at some point cause harm. Somebody will die in an automobile accident. Somebody will die in an automobile accident driven by an autonomous vehicle. So when you draw the line, do you draw the line and say, well, we're going to have an outright ban, which is where some people may draw the line. Other people may want to draw the line of, you know, the sky's the limit. But realistically, I don't think that's where the line is ultimately going to be drawn. And so I think wherever you end up drawing the line, there are going to be winners and there are going to be losers. And so when and at a certain point we reach diminishing returns where we say there's too many losers. But wherever we draw the line, there's going to be some people that do not benefit, that are harmed by it. And that's where I think we also have to take a look at and see what processes and programs and help are we going to put in place to help those people who are negatively affected by something that we've all agreed is a net benefit to society as a whole. And I think that's where we have to take a look at reforming social safety nets, reforming education systems and that kind of thing to be able to mitigate the harm from the people that do suffer from harm while being able to enhance the benefit for society as a whole.
I think, you know, our panelists already covered this. Thank you. So I will take the chance. May I have one question? So please allow 2 questions.
Thank you very much. It was really very exciting session. My question is this. We've had a lot of talk over the last 3 days with a lot of exciting technology and issues, but there isn't really, there hasn't been a strong presence or discussion about government. And even now, we're all talking as if the government doesn't exist, you know. All this talk about regulation, all this talk about like who's going to draw the line. I just wanted to ask the panelists, how do you see this dialogue progressing, and how can we get governments involved and aware of these issues? Because this is, we have to involve them, I think, at some point. Thank you.
Yeah, let me put it this way. We see government is the representative of the people. Government is not something coming from the sky. We are the government. In a way, we make the government what they should do. So we are discussing as citizens what they should do. We're saying that they should make a law. They should make regulations. I don't make regulation. I don't make law. They are the one who will be doing it. We are arguing as citizens, as people who live in this planet. This is what needs to be done. And I mentioned about even United Nations. That's not us. That's the government again. The government representatives will sit together, make it happen. So government will be responding to our demands if they're not doing it on their own initiative. This needs a pressure on the government because most of the government are busy doing other things. So you have to make them aware that, like we are talking about the environment, for example, government we are doing enough. We're saying this is not enough and enough because we are getting into real trouble. Unless we put pressure, that's why I was mentioning Greta Thunberg. One little girl, 16-year-old, made that pressure, and we became aware of that. And then Amazon burning in front of our own eyes, and we don't do anything. So we mobilize them and say to the government, look, you cannot do that. This is our lungs being burned. We cannot allow our lungs, the lungs for the whole planet is burning. We cannot allow that. So how to push the governments, make it happen. If we don't agree, government will not do anything at all, because that's not the job of the government. Government is to satisfy the people, taking their demands and execute them. There may be controversies, there may be debate, that's what the elections are. We go and say, this is the issue that we raise, this is where we put the vote. If you save the planet, we put the vote for you. Otherwise, we don't give you the vote. So government is not separated. We think it is part of us. It is not a body somehow comes from somewhere else in another planet. We don't think that way. So whatever we decide, that's what the government has to do. It's a public opinion forming. The scientists, that's why scientists became important in the case of the environment. And I was mentioning 11,000 scientists. They're not appealing to us. They're mobilizing us so that we put pressure on the government so that they can start doing things rather than just making an announcement, oh, everything will be fine, nothing to worry about it. We are worried about it. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
One question? Oh, thank you so much. Being a volunteer. Actually, Professor Yunus mentioned about the nuclear weapon that everyone agreed that we will not use. But still, the powerful countries are holding a lot of nuclear weapons. And anytime, if they use those weapons, the world can be vanished like that. And Jerome is really hopeful for the future. So my worry is, I'm thinking about my country, like millions of people in my country are working in the garments industry. So it's a manual process. If artificial intelligence is replaced those millions of women, so do you think they will find some sort of alternative jobs immediately?
Let me take it about the Bangladesh garment industry. I was told by the people who are designing artificial intelligence for garment industry that their expectation in the next 10 years, Bangladesh will not have any garment industry left because you will not need cheap labor anymore. This will be all replaced by artificial intelligence. If artificial intelligence comes in, then no company has to come to Bangladesh to produce a garment. They come only because cheap labor. So they will be producing it in their backyard, wherever they run their shops, because you don't have to have a stockpile of garments, because you only produce what you need next month, and you keep it right next to you. There's no shipping, no ordering, no delay, no warehousing, nothing. So you reduce all the cost. So the question is, where will these 4 million women go? Nowhere. They said their job will come. At least we don't see anything happening to those 4 million women in Bangladesh in the next 10 years or 20 years. So this is a risk. I said, what is the worst case scenario? That's the question I'm raising. You tell us what it is. Maybe it's not 10 years, it will be 15 years. But it's going for sure. It's not going to stay. And all the garment industries everywhere start folding up because the cheap labor is not needed, because machine is cheaper. Machine itself is cheaper, and the process becomes cheaper because of all the cargo, shipping, storing, advanced orders, mismanagement, and all the things will be gone, finished.
I will add a little bit. So I think, as Dr. Yunus said, that garments industry is going to be gone, actually. I already see many of the technologies that we're working on right now. They are specifically designed to actually make, garments, and also to package them. You'll be surprised how artificial intelligence can play a role. So definitely, Bangladesh has to think of a transition plan. And the transition plan can be, educate these people to actually do software like India did, right? Something like that. Like there will be a need of a lot of data processor in the world in the next century. So Bangladesh government needs to actually step up and see how we can educate those people with IT. And I do not mean by getting like a master's or a PhD degree in IT. Just have like a 3 to 6 month course so you can make a website, for example, or create an app. Those are not that high tech. So definitely there needs to be a transition plan for Bangladesh. Garments industry is going to be gone, and a transition plan of educating them with IT, database management will be the best solution, I guess. We need to talk to the government, as Dr. Yunus said.
I'll just answer that too, perhaps not as detailed as citizens, but I've spent a considerable amount of time in Bangladesh as well. I was Microsoft's lawyer for Bangladesh up until a couple of years ago. And one thing I would say is that Bangladesh, if you remember, is not a poor country. It is, if you take a concept of richness as being, a broad concept, vast amounts of human potential. You have there's resources and high literacy rates as well compared to other countries in the region. And so being able to look and see what is our competitive advantage as a nation and be able to exploit that. That's what you did in the garment industry. And those resources, if the industry moves on, those resources don't necessarily move on. So thinking about how you can put those to different use. And I think with all of this, Jenny, I appreciate your question around the role of government. I don't think we've talked enough about that, probably because we don't have any name tags with government up here on the stage right now. But there's a role for civil society. Civil society comes in with their voice strongly. There's a role for industry, and industry has their voice. Government is the arbiter that comes in and is able to weigh the pros and cons and come up with regulation after having taken in all those voices. We need all of that, and everybody needs to step up and do their job.
Could I ask Dr. Yunus to make a final closing remarks?
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll just, what I began with, I was sharing my worries. And I was saying that I may be right, I may be wrong, but these are constant worries. True worries, we didn't talk much about the environment and wealth concentration, which is very strong worries. It's coming, and not a long distance in future, but very short distance in future. At the same time, artificial intelligence is good to have all the views to come up with decisions. So it's not just an academic thing that we discuss and go home, write a paper, and that's our job is done. It's not done, it's our life. Even if you feel it's not my life, it's your children's life. They may not have any job, whichever direction you look for, because all occupied by machines. We are talking about unemployment of the existing people. We didn't talk about unemployment of the future people. Where do they go? This is a serious question. Employment is needed because you need to have an income for some kind. So that income is getting squeezed, opportunity getting squeezed. So how do you do that? What is the thing? Is technology is to help people, or technology is to make problem for people? So artificial intelligence is a massively problem creating, as I said, it's a curse. So that part of artificial, I'm not blanketly saying the artificial intelligence is the wrong thing, shut it up. I'm not saying that. I'm saying part of it is dangerous. So we should not use artificial intelligence in that direction. We should use artificial intelligence as long as it remains a blessing for us. That's the appeal I make. And where you draw the line, I have no view. Because you have to have a whole discussion where you draw the line so that it is optimal. And we can live with it, it helps us. And that's the work of the academics, to take it up. As a technology student, this is a very important assignment, not just to design technology, its impact on the people, on the planet is very important. Today we just narrowly focus on the technology itself. When you find something exciting, we say, oh, we did it. We don't need anybody to do any work. I made a machine which takes care of all the work. This is exciting information. But damage it does to the whole society, whole community, whole mankind, is not discussed in the laboratory. So that's where we have to do it, because we are the sufferers of this. So this is the issue that we want to raise. Continue discussion. Maybe because of our discussion, artificial intelligence gradually move into a blessing direction rather than going voluntarily, not forcing by regulators, voluntary part of it. Other part has to be forced, that you cannot work here, you have to go there. So that we know at least we have made some safe space for ourselves. Artificial intelligence is not randomly taking everything they need to do. They're continuously telling us it's coming, it's coming. And you heard Anis Zaman talk about garment industry, what's happening. And he's a technology man, deep inside of technology. If that is what is happening, are our public representatives aware of that? What plan we are making of the transition? Where do we do? What are the options that we have? So that we make preparations. Without preparation, suddenly we say people are going home empty-handed, nothing to do for themselves. This is one occasion Bangladeshi women got an opportunity to work, because always they lived in the families back home in the villages. So this is the first time they came out of the homes, which is a tremendous kind of change in Bangladeshi society. But that will be cut off. You no longer need it. And what is the alternative for that? So those are the things that the forum like this will make us conscious about it and pay our attention into it, come up with alternative designs of it. How do you do that? What are the options available to policymakers so that we prepare for that? What are the options available to the businesses so that they don't become as aggressive as we hear right now, that it may become maybe slower than they normally would possibly do? Can they slow it down? Is there any other thing that can slow it down? Those are the issues. So I'm very happy that we can participate in this and that you are interested in the subject, because many people just excited about the coming of the artificial intelligence, not the other part of artificial intelligence, what it brings along with it. And that's one where we have concentrated our discussion only on one part, unemployment part. Unemployment of the employed people and unemployment of the future people. This part. We have not taken the other part at all. They will take over the world. We exist on this planet at their mercy. They have their own will. We have not talked about it. So we have to talk about it. Are they taking it over? Are they intelligent? Can they surpass our intelligence? Is there a line that says that yes, they can surpass our intelligence? And is it limitless? Yes, it is limitless. If it is limitless, we have no chance. Biologically, we cannot compete with them because our intelligence is limited. Very slightly we can improve, but they go in an exponential way, continue to grow. So in a situation like that, where do we fit in? Do we fit in at all? Do we exist? Do we have to exist? Do we need to exist? Why should we exist on this planet? Maybe whoever has created this world has other plans. He will go in his own. Is this what we see? Or we say, no, this is our planet, this is our home, we protect it. And we protect, not only protect it, but we design it according to our desires, not somebody else's desire. And that's a challenge we are facing right now. So anyway, this is a discussion. I'm very happy to have all the panelists here. It's a wonderful way of seeing from different angles, because same issue can be seen in many different ways. We have to be aware of every single thing and come to a conscious decision. Yes, this is something I feel should be done right now and in this way, and continue to make it happen. So otherwise, it's our life. It's not academic in the sense that we are not involved. We are involved. It's our life, it's our children's life, our grandchildren's life, and it's very immediate. So we have to feel that urgency of it. That's the issue that we wanted to raise. And thank you very much for having.
Thank you very much,
Thank you very
Professor
much.
Yunus. And give it a big hand to all the panelists. Thank you very much. Excellent discussions.
Thank you so much. Now it's time for the coffee break and networking. Next session will be started 2:50 p.m. 2:50 p.m. Thank you so much.